Southside Church. Let's stand up as we sing.
The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. Surrounded by your love, Jesus, Jesus. We need your love, we need your love. Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done here as in heaven. Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here.
That's our prayer today, that God's will would be done here on earth as it is in heaven, and that we would be so filled with God's love that it would spill over into the lives and how we love the people around us. And this next song is all about God's promises. He promises us peace in our storms, strength in our weakness, and that through all the little bits and pieces of brokenness in life, God works all things together for our good. So let's sing. There is a promise that points beyond my failure. There is a still voice to silence all my fears. Even the worst of my mistakes are miracles in the making. A miracle
God can do more than you can do. God can do more than you can do. God can do more than you can do in your family. God can do more than you can in your marriage. God can do more than you can with your kids. God can do more than you can do in your neighborhood. God can do more than you can do in your job. And see, for some of you today, what God wants you to do is, you've been fighting this battle, you've been facing this situation on your own, and today's the day you look up and say, God, I acknowledge it. You can do more than I can do. Here it is. You take it.
Beginning of this chapter in the history of Southside Church probably happened at Camp Stillwood back in 2006. This was way before Corinne and I came on staff, and we were on the leadership team, and there was a meeting. And one of the people at the meeting was Phil Adams. And I just remember Phil Adams saying, guys, I think we need a building. Now keep in mind, by the way, that at that time, Phil Adams was basically the setup team and the takedown team and the sound team all by himself. So he says, I really think that we need a building, that we can grow and that we can really impact this city with a building. And there was like this sense of silence, and then all these opposing voices came against him. And at that moment, I remember supporting Phil's idea, never having a clue that one day I would be the lead pastor at Southside Church. But that seed stayed with me.
So I really felt that the Lord was leading us to move towards a building. And I made mention of that in our leadership meeting. That was discussed and pretty much left at that point. Not a lot of action was put in place or an action plan put in place. But I did feel that God was saying that it was the time to begin to pursue it and to begin to take steps towards moving into a permanent home for Southside Church.
Now fast forward to 2014, and I'm the lead pastor of the church. And I remember Corinne and I looking around, and we were growing like crazy, and our impact was increasing week by week. And that moment from Camp Stillwood in 2006 came back to me. And I realized, man, we gotta build a building. We got to put our foot down in the city. We got to make a statement that says we're not just here to make an impact for this generation, but for generations to come. We weren't yet ready to buy land and build a building, but we knew we needed to start moving towards it. So we launched the Bold campaign. And the Bold campaign is hilarious because I remember like 3 weeks in, I'm sitting in my office and I'm trying to think to myself, like if I had to boil down the message of the Bold campaign, what would it be? And here it was. We need to build something, somewhere, sometime. And I'm wondering, is anyone even going to respond?
I believe by taking our next step to getting a full-time facility, we'll be putting a stake in the ground in this city. And here's what we're saying. That this gift that God has given us, this mission, this ability that we have to reach out to the so-called unreachable, it's not just for our generation. It's for your kids. It's for their kids. It's for their children. That for generations to come, that the rebels and the write-offs and the black sheep and the people burnt out on religion can come somewhere and find out that they're not made right with God by rules and regulations, but through a relationship with the Son of God who loves them so much that he died for them.
So a staff of 12 families, we all came together to pledge what we were going to give over and above our regular giving to this campaign over 2 years. So our staff is young and old, families, single people, none of us overly wealthy by any means. We were just a group of ordinary world changers. And that night, we pledged to give $210,000 over 2 years. And right then, I knew that our vision was aligned with God's heart. It wasn't just something that we wanted. At that moment, I knew it was something that God wanted. Because I knew that if our staff was this bought in, everyone else who called Southside Church home would be too. And so we walked into the Bold Commitment Sunday with incredible expectation.
Courage is never the absence of fear. It's the ability to banish it. The willingness to banish it. Being bold doesn't mean you never have doubts, but being bold means that you get back up, you take your next step, and you banish the doubts that are trying to hold you back.
$1.5 million. And And that was pledged by 203 families. Man, we could not believe it, because our goal for Bold was actually $1 million. And so to have $500,000 pledged over our initial goal really was a sign that God was up to something. We knew God had land in mind for us. Now we just had to go and find it. And in 2018, we started building a relationship with the Hull family. And in June of 2019, we purchased the land in partnership with the Hulls and Chackton First Nation, where our facility now exists.
Once, we'd had the presentations from Dave and his team, and we had our family sessions to discuss it and look at, whether this was, first of all, something that we should even entertain and move forward with. And kind of the description of the buildings and how it was going to be operated, and the focus on family life and the importance of, a lot of things that were not necessarily just for religion, but basically a way of life. And I thought that was really good, and my family, along with me, were very supportive of that. They believed in that approach. I was, talking to the chief as well, and I said, this is a very, in my opinion, a different organization.
Okay, so now the vision started to sharpen. We had a piece of land, and we were beginning the process of building the first full-time home in the history of Southside Church. But we were asking ourselves, what is this process going to look like? See, because I think there's a temptation when you're building the first facility in the history of your church to make the facility the point. And we wanted to establish right from the very beginning that this building, it's beautiful, but it's not the point. And so we came up with a goal, which was called the More Expanded Vision, that over the course of 2 years, it wasn't just about building a building. We wanted to bring more help, more hope, and more home to our city and to our world. But what we didn't know when we set that goal of $6 million is that God was already beginning to speak into the hearts and lives of Southsider after Southsider after Southsider after Southsider. God had a different idea.
I just hope that all of you know the spiritual significance in what happened today. You unclench your fists today. And he's been trying to feel your hands, but he hasn't been able to because he can't feel clenched fists. So what's happened here is amazing as a family, as a church, and what God wants to do in our city, but it's also amazing for what's going to happen in each and every one of your lives. When we call this campaign More, like he wants to give more of himself to each and every one of us. And that's what happened here today.
After our church pledged $6.5 million, this enabled us to start construction on our first ever facility. I'll actually never forget hundreds of us coming together and walking the few blocks from Sardis Secondary, where we had held church for 23 years, to our future home to break ground for the first time. So we were back on track. And almost a year later, at our 1 year more anniversary, we had new Southsiders join into the vision and elevate our commitment from $6.5 million to $6.8 million. And we were continuing to grow, continuing to take steps forward. And then 3 weeks later, COVID hit, and the world stopped in its tracks.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus. Coronavirus.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
This is a rapidly emerging situation where there is not a cause for alarm.
The first US case has been detected.
There's confirmation the coronavirus has reached Australia.
China is urging its citizens not to travel abroad as it struggles to contain the virus.
Foreign nationals coming from China are now banned from entering the country.
So when COVID first hit, I actually remember not being that worried. I just kind of assumed that it would be a couple-week-long thing. And if I'm completely honest, our church staff and our church in general were very resilient, were very resourceful, and I figured we would just roll with the punches and everything would be okay. And then the weeks turned into months, and the months turned into a year or more. And I remember looking back now, there were times when I was really, really worried. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but now I can just see so clearly the faithfulness of God and the faithfulness of our church. Our church just stepped up to the plate over and over and over again, just asking how they could help, how they could be a part of what God was doing in and through us.
But what we began to notice week after week and month after month is God had a plan in all of it. One of the first things that God showed us is that we weren't going to focus on what we can't do, but instead we were just going to keep asking ourselves, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And what we found is when it comes to the people of Southside Church, we can do a lot. And the people of this church, the people of this family, of this mission, kept believing, kept sacrificing, kept praying, kept giving, kept serving, kept asking themselves, what can we do? In a world that desperately needs help, hope, and home, what can we do?
And on May 2nd, 2021, we announced the final total amount of funds that had come in for our expanded vision called More. $11.3 million. We didn't just meet our goal. God moved and we nearly doubled it. And here we are, poised and ready to be the church, the light that God has called us to be. And the craziest part is that this is only the beginning. Even after all we've seen thus far, we have never been more confident the best is yet to come.
That was so good. I kind of made the mistake of watching that. I could just cry. I'm not going to cry, though, don't worry. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our official grand opening Sunday of Southside Church. It is so cool to be here with you. My name is Leah, and I'm on staff here at Southside, and I've been a part of Southside now for years and years and years, and it has been an honor and a privilege and an amazing opportunity just to watch God work in and through this church. But I know there's lots of people here today, and you might not have been here for years and years and years. Maybe you started watching Southside Church online, or maybe today is your very, very first Sunday. Maybe you're tuning in online for the first time. Maybe this is your first time in our building. And we just want to say with all of our hearts, welcome here. It doesn't matter where you're at with God, with life, with faith. There's so much space for you here. We love you. You are welcome. And we hope that you feel right at home. If you are new, we would also love to connect with you. All you have to do is just text the keyword hello to our phone number. We're going to hear about that a lot, that phone number today, 604-670-3040. You'll get a link back to a digital connections card, and that just gives you an opportunity to ask us any questions you might have, and we'll send you a $5 Starbucks e-card on us, just as a way of saying we're so glad that you decided to join us here today. So we know for certain that there's people here today and you're new to Southside, and we're also sure that there's people here today and you're new to faith. Maybe you're one of those people that put your hands up over the past few months at Southside just saying, I want to invite Jesus into my heart for the first time. And we've been thinking about that a lot. There's so many people that are new to Southside here, and there's so many people that are new to faith. And so we decided to make something just for you. It's called Southside 101, and it's a 3-week group that's going to be launching next week after the 11 a.m. service with childcare included. And this group is basically just designed to answer your questions. I've talked to a lot of people that are new to faith, and they always have so many questions, but they always assume that their questions are dumb or stupid, and they're not. Your questions aren't dumb, they're not stupid, and we really want to answer them. And Southside 101 is going to do that for you, and if we miss any questions you might have, there's going to be space for you to ask any questions that you might have. And if you're new to Southside, maybe you're wondering things like, what does Southside value? How can I get connected here? How can I serve here? What's Southside Church all about? Southside 1 is going to answer those questions for you as well. We want it to be a group that really expedites the process of you going from saying, I'm new to Southside Church, to I belong to Southside Church. I'm a part of this church. I'm growing here. I'm connected here. So that's Southside 101. It's starting next week. If you want any more details, just text 101 to our phone number again, 604-670-3040. It's up on the screens there for you as well. Also, it's September, and with September comes so many new things. Tomorrow we're launching young adults for 18 to 30-year-olds, which is going to be really exciting. We have junior youth launching, we have senior youth launching, we have events and service days and programs, and so much is happening. And we know it's a lot to take in, it's a lot to remember. So we created a one-stop shop for you, and all you have to do is just text NEWS to our phone number again, 604-670-3040. It'll take you to a website which will have everything that's upcoming at Southside and all the details about everything that's going to happen. So you can go there and find it at any time, just text NEWS. And lastly, in the seat in front of you or in between your seats on the ground, if you're on the risers, there's a little card, and basically that card just outlines any questions you might have about our Sunday experience here. So it talks about our kids program that we're running. It addresses nursing moms. If you have a little one you ever need to run out of the service with, we have a room for you. And it also goes over all the details that I just said, because I know I'm saying a lot and probably saying it kind of quickly. So it's also on that card for you. So at this point in the service, we like to take some time just to give together. It's so cool watching that video, and I'm so proud to be able to say that we are a generous church. And we give out of obedience to God. In the Bible, God reminds us that every single thing that we have is a gift from Him. But He also promises us that when we give back to Him, when we give to His church, we'll be blessed in ways we can't even imagine. And so we give out of obedience to honor God. But we also give because it's an opportunity. Southside Church funds so many amazing initiatives and programs. From the Haiti Free School, which you might not know about, we have a Haiti Free School in Haiti that funds and supports students from kindergarten to grade 12 and provides scholarships for students to go to university, to supporting local community programs like Pearl, which helps rescue women from sex trafficking. We are doing so much. We are funding so much help and so much hope, and it's an amazing thing to be a part of. So if you want to start giving, or if you want to give for the first time today, you can. And you guessed it, you can text our phone number. The keyword give, the number's on the screen. All right, guys, so I am so excited to hear again from our amazing and wonderful lead pastor, Mike Manis. So after the little video plays and the lights go up, why don't you give him a really big, warm Southside welcome?
Well, September 12th, 2021. I am very, very glad to be here with you today. Without any word of exaggeration, I would tell you this, that it is an honor and a privilege to be with you today, to look back and figure out how did we get here, to spend some time assessing what is here, where are we, but most importantly, to look ahead. Whether you're watching online or in person today, to look ahead and answer this question: where do we go from here? See, it's all about timing. Timing. Some people say that timing is everything. I remember when I had just finished my junior year of college at Red Deer College in Red Deer, Alberta. Well, in the interest of full disclosure, I should tell you this. It wasn't really my junior year. I was finishing my third year, but it took me 3 years to get 2 years worth of credits at Red Deer College in Red Deer, Alberta. Part of that was because I switched majors from political science to history, but most of it was because I was not a model student. I remember one time walking in late to an evening English class, yet again late, and my professor looked up. She was reading something out of Shakespeare, I don't really remember, and she looked up as I walked in, and she saw me walk in late, yet again, and at the top of her lungs yelled this: "Get behind me, Satan!" Which I think expresses really well just the overall frustration my professors had for me at that time. A kid with all the ability, but none of the focus or work ethic to see it come to fruition. But anyways, I had just finished my third year at Red Deer College in Red Deer, Alberta, and I was planning the following fall in September a Maple Leaf shirt. You've got to be kidding me. It's grand opening Sunday. And I have ADD and someone wears a Leafs shirt. and sits in the third row. What am I supposed to do with that, Mike? There's a Canucks hat up there. Okay, well, anyways, quit changing the subject, okay? So I just finished my third year at Red Deer College, got 2 years worth of credits. In September of that same year, I'm going to go to Trinity Western in Langley on the other side of the Rocky Mountains. But in between, I get a summer job. I'm working for the Alberta provincial government at this large government institution. I'm on the grounds crew. And on one particular morning, I'm walking down the sidewalk. And I see walking towards me a girl about my age, and she is absolutely beautiful. And so I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me. Like she's mesmerized by my mullet or something like that, you know? And so I'm walking towards her, she's looking at me, I'm looking at her, she's looking at me, I'm looking at her, she's looking at me. We're looking, and we have this moment. Like it was a moment. Like if you would have come to me 2 months later and said, hey, do you remember that time on the sidewalk? I would have said, oh yeah, I remember. Remember the girl from yes, I remember the girl from the sidewalk. We had a moment. Now fast forward 3 months later. So now I've left Red Deer, gone across the Rocky Mountains, and I'm in Langley, BC at Trinity Western University. It's my second day there. And the leaders of our dorm say that our guys' dorm is going to take a girls' dorm out for a dorm date. Now, I had never heard of a dorm date. But they said, listen, it's easy. You have a car, so you and your roommate are going to go down into the parking lot, find 2 girls, give them a ride to the place. I honestly don't remember what that place was. So I'm standing there in the parking lot with my roommate. Again, let me reiterate. I had left Red Deer, Alberta, okay, where I had the moment on the sidewalk. Now I'm on the other side of the Rocky Mountains in Langley, BC. And walking in the parking lot, right past my car is sidewalk girl. Sidewalk girl. And my roommate walks over to her and says, hey, do you guys want to ride? And she says, yes. She comes walking over. She looks up at me, and I had a hat on at this point. She rips my hat off. And she says, you're the guy from the sidewalk. I knew exactly who she was, but I pretended like I didn't remember. I don't know why. Sidewalk? What do you mean? I don't know why I did that. I just did. So that was Corinne. And she's my wife. And part of it is timing. Timing. Some people say that timing is everything. Maybe you've experienced that in your life, that you were in the right time at the right place. Or maybe you've experienced the opposite. Wrong time, wrong place. They say that timing is everything. I don't know about that. But as somebody who has spent my life studying history, I will tell you this, timing is a lot. One of my favorite moments that illustrates the importance of timing out of history is this moment that's known as the miracle of Dunkirk. The miracle of Dunkirk took place in early summer of 1940, but to really understand the story, I got to go back to the 1930s. See, in the 1930s, the Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, took control of Germany. Now, the Nazi Party, led by Hitler, was one of the most bloodthirsty, sadistic, violent, and evil regimes in all of human history, and their goal was world domination. And throughout the 1930s in Germany, they began moving towards world domination until finally in 1938, Hitler absorbed Austria. He took part of Czechoslovakia. In 1939, he took the rest of Czechoslovakia and he signed alliances with Mussolini's Italy and Stalin's Soviet Union. And then in September of 1939, Hitler invaded Poland and the Allies declared war. So that's the official beginning of World War II. But once Hitler had taken Poland, he stopped for winter. And he didn't start again until April of 1940. And he launched on the world at that time something called Blitzkrieg, which was a German word that means lightning war. Lightning war. It was a direct response in opposition to the trench warfare of World War I. See, in World War I, the way the war worked was that the two sides just sat there in these series of trenches facing each other, and the generals would send tens of thousands of soldiers over the top of these trenches. And the grisly truth about World War I is this: the side that won was the side that didn't run out of soldiers. So in spring of 1940, Hitler launched Blitzkrieg because he didn't want to see a repeat of that. Blitzkrieg was the opposite of trench warfare. It was the opposite of a battle of attrition. Blitzkrieg was when fast-moving infantry
was supported by mobilized artillery and tanks and dive bombers. They punched a hole through the enemy lines. They outflanked the enemy, and then they encircled them, where small numbers of well-equipped soldiers could actually defeat much larger numbers. They would encircle the enemy and defeat them. And the world was not ready in April and May of 1940 for Blitzkrieg. Hitler defeated Denmark and Norway and Holland and Belgium. And then on May the 16th of 1940, Hitler circumvented the Maginot Line and entered France. He punched a hole through the enemy lines. He outflanked and he encircled them. But this time the stakes were incredibly high. The Allied soldiers went into full retreat, 350,000 of them, most of them British. They were in a headlong retreat. They ended up in a town called Dunkirk. The German army behind them, the English Channel in front of them, no place to go. I want to stop there for a second, because what maybe we don't realize is that our lives today are radically impacted by what was about to happen in Dunkirk. If those 350,000 soldiers had been taken by Hitler, he would have easily taken France, he would have taken England, and by that point it would have been almost impossible to stop him. In other words, our lives, our world would be drastically different. History hung on the balance in Dunkirk. So on May the 26th of 1940, King George VI of England called for a national day of prayer. He called on the people of England and the entire British Commonwealth to join him in praying for the survival of their nation, that their boys would make it home safely, that freedom would prevail. And millions of people prayed. In England and throughout the British Commonwealth, we have a picture right now of people lined up outside of Westminster Abbey on that day, May the 26th of 1940, praying for the survival of their nation, that their boys would make it home and that freedom would somehow continue. And yet the next day, the German High Command sent this message to Hitler: British Army encircled. We proceed to its annihilation. The Prime Minister of Britain at that time was Winston Churchill, and he was desperate. He came up with one of the most unorthodox strategies in military history. He decided that they were going to send boats 34 kilometers across the English Channel to rescue the boys. You say that's not unorthodox. I mean every single boat available in England. Every fishing boat, every pleasure craft, every trawler, anything that they could, every sailboat, anything that could make the trip 34 kilometers across the English Channel to Dunkirk. Privately, Churchill said to his friends, I hope that out of the 350,000 soldiers that we can rescue 20,000 of them. He named it Operation Dynamo. But what Churchill didn't know at that time was that Operation Dynamo was going to become the miracle of Dunkirk. Why? Timing. See, at just that moment, when the plans were beginning and the ships were starting to make their way across the English Channel, inexplicably, Hitler made a decision. He decided to stop. He stopped his advance 15 kilometers from Dunkirk. His generals were begging him to continue to finish what they had started, and he stopped 15 kilometers from Dunkirk. So those 350,000 trapped soldiers were able to organize themselves, prepare to be evacuated. Secondly, a brutal storm whipped up inland in France. So bad, in fact, that the German Air Force was grounded. Now, this is important because if the German Air Force, who had air superiority at that time, were able to take off, Dunkirk would have been like a shooting gallery. The evacuation never would have worked. And thirdly, and maybe most surprisingly, the English Channel, despite the fact that there was a storm raging so bad in France that the German Air Force could not take off, the English Channel was glass. Smoother than anyone could remember seeing it. And so these sailboats and fishing boats and pleasure craft made the trip to Dunkirk and back and forth and back and forth, and the soldiers began to be rescued. Sometimes the boats were so small that it was 3 or 2 at a time. And when it was all over, 338,000 soldiers
lived to fight another day. And England survived. And freedom continued. I remember a quote from Dr. H.A. Wilson, who was the Bishop of Chelmsford. He said this: "If ever a great nation was on the point of supreme and final disaster, and yet was saved and reinstated, it was ourselves. It does not require an exceptionally religious mind to detect in all of this the hand of God." Translation: God has a sense of timing. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 says it this way: "Everything that happens in this world happens at the time God chooses." Timing might not be everything, but it's a lot. I'm walking down the sidewalk in Red Deer, Alberta. What if I had waited 5 minutes? What if she hadn't been there that day? What if she hadn't walked across the parking lot at that moment? What if the English Channel would have been calm the next day? What if that storm would have raged a week earlier? Timing is a lot. Timing is a lot, and I think it really, really hits me today on September 12th, 2021. I think there's a reason that my path and your path would cross today. September 12th, 2021, grand opening of this building. Remember 10 years ago or so, we started asking ourselves this question: why does this church exist? Why does this church exist? Why does Southside Church exist? And we could come up with like little answers. There's a lot of little answers, but what I was really looking for is like an overarching statement that would summarize for a simple Red Deer, Alberta boy like me, what are we doing here? And we talked about it, and we prayed about it, and we met about it. And I remember sitting in my office one day, and I was asking myself, why do we exist? Why do we exist? And for some reason, I changed the question, and I asked myself this instead: what are we here for? And as soon as I changed the question, I knew the answer. What are we here for? We're here for the city. Why do we exist? We exist for the city. Why do we do everything we do? We do it all for the city. For every boy and every girl, every man and every woman, for every family, for our neighbors, for our friends, for our coworkers, for our colleagues, for our classmates. We are here for this city. That's why we exist. We're here to bring help and hope and home. And when we came up with that idea, when we realized that we're here for this city, it became very clear to us that if we wanted to make the impact that God wanted us to make, not just today, but for generations to come, we needed to put our roots down in the city. We needed to build a building. And 10 years ago, we were not ready to just go and buy land and build a building, so we started taking little steps towards September 12th, 2021, little steps. I remember we had this thing called Game Changer. And Game Changer was, we wanted to buy a helicopter hangar to host our midweek services and our staff offices. And we didn't really have a fancy capital campaign or anything like that. I just came up on stage one Sunday morning and I said, hey, here's the thing, we need $280,000. And the next day I went into the office and the finance team came to me and they said, Mike, bad news, we actually made a little mistake. We don't need $280,000, we need $320,000 instead. So the next Sunday I came up and said, you're not gonna believe what happened. Remember how I said we needed 200, we actually need 300. Funny how that happened. It might just keep going up. You never know. And yet it turned out that the timing was perfect because the people of Southside responded with sacrificial generosity. And we took a little step towards September 12th, 2021. And then we did this thing called the Bold campaign. And I already talked about it in the video, but the Bold campaign was funny because we didn't have land, we didn't have like a building. You know, it's nice to have that. Hey, we'd love you to give. Look at the land, it's great. And here's the building. We didn't have any of that. So it's like me standing on stage going, we want to build something. How's that for specific? And we're going to build it somewhere. You got it? And we're going to build it sometime. And yet it turned out that the timing was perfect because the people of Southside responded with sacrificial generosity, and we took a bit of a bigger step towards September 12th, 2021. And then the More campaign. Well, the timing was perfect. We began construction on this building late in 2019. Talk about timing. You know, if we would have started a month or two later on construction, the cost of building this building would have gone up minimum 1.5 times. And anyone in the construction trade knows what it's been like over this last couple of years. If we would have started a couple months later, there's a really good chance this building wouldn't be finished today. You know, I think it's really important. I think it's really important that my path would cross your path today on September the 12th, 2021, because it's been quite a 2 years, you guys. Can I give you one simple example? When I imagined myself, I was thinking about 4 months ago of this day, our grand opening. And this is what I thought I was going to say on our grand opening day. I was going to say that for a lot of us, we're asking ourselves right now, what just happened? But that's not the question, is it? We wish that was the question. But truly, the question on September 12th, 2021 would be more accurately said, what is happening? It's been tough. And there's so many questions that we can ask ourselves, like, what just happened? What is happening? But I think the one that we are called to ask today on Grand Opening Sunday is this: how do we move forward? In a world that looks a lot different than it did a couple of years ago. How do we move forward? How do we move forward individually? How do we move forward together? How do we move forward for this city? I think we move forward in 3 ways. Number one, I think we move forward with help. We move forward with help. Let me put it this way, and then I'll explain it. I think we need to make a decision, and it's a tough decision. September 12th, 2021, it's a tough decision to make, but I think we need to make this decision. Here it is. I think we got to decide that we're going to be people, individually and collectively, that we're going to be people who extend a helping hand instead of raising an angry fist. I really think that's a decision we have to make. And on one side of it, I think that's a really easy thing for me to stand up here and say. So let me really lay it out for you. I think if we want to move forward with help, I think the first thing that you and me need to decide to do is we need to decide that we're going to get humble and admit that we need some help. Here's the truth about you. I wish it wasn't true. I really do. But here's the truth about you. You're hurting. You're hurting. I look around the world today and I see so much anxiety, I see so much anger, I see so much isolation, and it's all a result of hurt. I was talking to a guy the other day. He said, man, have I ever put on a lot of weight during COVID? And I kind of thought he was kidding. I'm like, well, that's no big deal. He's like, no, it is a big deal. Like, I put on a lot of weight, and it's not healthy. I said, well, that's fine. That's okay. I said, I'll help you. We'll come up with a plan. You know, you can lose that weight. He said, I don't think I can. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm overeating to numb out my anxiety, and I don't want to stop overeating because I don't want to face my anxiety. Talked to another guy in the gym the other day. I said, how you been doing? He said, not good. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm sleeping about 2 hours a night, if that. I said, why? He says, I'm anxious. He says, it's funny too, you know, because back before I got clean and sober, I was never anxious. See, I think what COVID did for a lot of us is it removed any bastion of the illusion of control that we still had. You know, this thing that, like, my life is in my control, that I can control all my friends, I can control all my family, I can control all the circumstances. It's all going to be okay as long as I make it okay. And I think COVID has shown us that that's absolutely not true. And so there's a lot of the world right now that we feel out of control. And so sometimes we overeat, and sometimes we go back to habits that we thought we had kicked completely. See, we're hurting, and for some people, it manifests itself as anxiety. For others, it's anger. Hurting people hurt people, right? Man, oh man, are we an angry culture right now. We fight about everything, you guys. We fight about the environment, we fight about identity, we fight about masks, we fight about vaccines, we fight about passports, and we can sit down together, you and me, and let's say we agree on 100 things, and we hit the 101 thing that we don't agree on. That's it. We're angry. We write each other off. And so for so many of us, we kind of get lost in our anger. And you know, and I know something about that. It's no way to live. Live a good life lost in our own anger. And I really want to think, like, if we want to move forward with help, really the first thing that we need to be willing to do is say, man, like, I need some help. I'm lost in my anxiety. I'm lost in my anger. I'm not going to pretend I'm okay if I'm not okay. I need some help. And for some people, it's isolation. It was funny when COVID first hit. I had a lot of people in my life say, man, I was built for this quarantine thing. I love it. I love being isolated, right? I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but there was a lot of you. But it's getting a little much, right? Like there's something to being introverted, absolutely. But there's also something to, like, we actually need each other. And what's tough about it is right now, there's a lot of people I know that they're having trouble kind of re-entering life. I had a 2-year-old grandson. Up until about a month and a half ago, he had never been really to Southside Kids. I know he's just a 2-year-old, but it was just bizarre to him. And I'm wondering if that's a little bit of illustration of all of us trying to kind of enter back into what is this? So if we're going to move forward, I want to suggest to you, if I'm going to stand up here and go, hey, we got to lend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist, that's really cool and that's really motivational. It will not happen. It is not possible. I guarantee it, unless you and me can make a decision right here and right now, honestly, that we're going to be humble people and that we're going to find some people in our lives that are going to say, you know what? I need some help. I'm hurting. I'm lost in my anxiety. I'm lost in my anger. I'm lost in my isolation. I don't want to be here anymore. And then when we do that, when we're humble enough to ask for help, then I think we can be generous enough to extend help. We talk about this all the time, that we want to be a church that even though we can't fix everything, we can do something, right? Or how about this? We can't help everyone, but we can help someone. If God places someone in my life, if God places some people in our lives collectively, you had better believe that we're going to do everything we can for them. And what's weird about that is that if you first humble yourself and ask for help, and then get generous and extend help, it becomes a virtuous cycle. Because when I get humble and ask for help, then help people, right? Like if I'm receiving help, then I can extend it. And the crazy thing about it is that one of the easiest ways to kind of step a little bit out of your anxiety or your anger or your isolation is to what? To help other people. So then I receive help by helping. And as I help, I'm helped. And you get what I mean? It's a virtuous cycle. So how do we move forward September 12th, 2021, individually and collectively, in our families, in our friend groups, as a church? How do we move forward? Well, number one, we move forward with help. We're humble enough to ask for it. We're generous enough to extend it. And number two, we move forward with home. Home. Now, grammatically, that's completely incorrect, so let me explain it to you. When we talk about home, we talk about a sense of connection. We talk about a sense of belonging. Because I think here, September 12th, 2021, we live in a bit of an outrage culture, just a little bit of an outrage culture where you're kind of scared to say the wrong thing because if you say the wrong thing, you might be canceled. See, we talked earlier about anxiety and anger and isolation. So can I get a little bit more specific? We're anxious and we're fearful. And one of the primary things that we are fearful of is we're fearful of other people. We're angry. We're not angry at the universe. We're not angry at my lawn that died. I'm kind of angry about my lawn that died this summer, but mostly we're angry at other people, man. And we're isolated, obviously, from other people. And your anxiety is monetized. There's people who make money when you're fearful. You understand that, right? So your primary fear is directed at other people, and there's people who want you to be fearful because they make money off of your fear. Your fear is monetized. And your anger is monetized also. So your primary anger is you're angry at other people or other groups of people, and your anger is monetized and it's being fed. But it's really weird because if you read in the Bible, you'll see that God talks about his people, his church, as a family. And if you walk into this building, one of the things you notice that this building is meant to be a home for a family. It's meant to be a place of connection. It's meant to be a place of acceptance. It's meant to be a place of belonging. And so we really, really have to make a decision. Family has to trump feelings. There's people who are monetizing your feelings of fear and your feelings of anger. And so when we look at each other and say, well, you don't look like I look. You don't believe like I believe. You don't vote like I vote. You don't think like I think. You don't speak like I speak. Enough, 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 enough. We're family, man. And family has to trump feelings. On September 12th, 2021, I'm telling you, if we're gonna move forward, it's not only just with help. We gotta move forward with a sense of home, with a sense of family. Family must trump feelings. You don't have to believe like we believe to belong here. And if you're watching online or you're in person right now, and you're new or new-ish to faith, or maybe you're still asking questions about faith, or you're new to church, or you're new to this church, I want to ask you honestly to do an incredibly brave thing. I want to ask you, and Leah talked about it earlier, to take a second and text 101 to 604-670-3040. What's 101? 101 is us becoming we, together, family. 101 is a chance for a group of us to get together and decide that we're going to focus on what unites us rather than what divides us. 101 is a chance for you to take a first step into community, into finding some people in your life that you can come to and say, hey, I'm hurting, I need some help. 101 is a chance for you to step into a community where you can look at somebody else and say, you look like you're hurting, can I help? I'm going to seek first to understand, not to be understood. I'm going to seek first to know, not be known. I'm going to seek first to love, not even be loved. So how are we going to move forward? Well, number one, we're going to move forward with help. We really are going to try to be a people who extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist. We're going to ask for help. We're going to extend help. Secondly, we're going to move forward with home. We're going to make a decision right here and right now that family trumps feelings. Has to. And thirdly, we're going to move forward with hope. One of the best things you will ever read or hear this year is found in Romans 5, verses 6 through 8. Listen to this. You see, at just the right time. At just the right time. When we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. We've got to move forward with help. We do. We got to move forward with home. We do. But more than anything else, September 12th, 2021, we need hope. They say a person can live 40 days without food, 3 days without water, 8 minutes without air. Can't live a second without hope. And here's the honest truth. And first of all, I'm so proud of you. What a 2 years it's been, and you're still here. You're still fighting. I'm so proud of you. But if we were all completely honest right now, we might say, man, we're running a little bit low on hope. And that's why it's so important that we never lose this knowledge at Southside Church, that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, stands alone among all worldviews and all religions in all of human history. See, every other worldview, every other religion teaches the same thing. Man, are you low on hope? Well, you need to do something to get it back. You want salvation? Reach for it. You want forgiveness? Reach for it. You want a relationship with God? Earn it. And so we try all kinds of stuff like moralism, right? Moralism.
Moralism says, well, I got to try to be a good person. How's that working for you? See, I find the problem with moralism is it always feels deep down inside, I'm never quite good enough, you know? Or we can try religion. Religion says it's all about rules and regulations and reputation. But the problem with religion is you're always left with this thought in the back of your head, man, I'm not quite doing enough. Or for some of us, it's materialism. We decide that salvation for us is accumulation and acquisition. Like if I have enough, that'll be enough. But the problem is it just feels like enough is never quite enough. And for some, it's competition. I just got to win. I got to win. I got to be successful. I got to get the trophy. I got to get the quarter office. I just got to win. But when all the dust settles and the confetti stops flying, there you are. And how's it going? See, here's the crazy thing about Jesus. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, left his throne in heaven and he came to earth. He was born in a manger, in a stable, in a little town called Bethlehem. You know, one of the names given to Jesus is the name Emmanuel, God with us. Do you understand what that means? Here's what it means. You don't have to reach for salvation. Salvation has come to you. You don't have to reach for forgiveness. Forgiveness has come to you. You don't have to reach for God. God has come to you. You don't have to reach for hope. Hope has come to you in the person of Jesus Christ. Hope has a name, and that name is Jesus. And Jesus lived and he died on a Roman cross. And when he died on this cross, this is what it means. It means that we don't have to measure ourselves by the mistakes and the regret and the baggage of our past anymore. Jesus carried our baggage. He carried our sins. He carried our shame. He carried our regrets to the cross and he put them to death. We don't have to carry them anymore. And then he rose again. He rose again, and because Jesus rose, he says, hey, come follow me. Let's rise too. On September 12th, 2021, I can't think of a better message than that. How do we move forward? Well, we can't move forward without him. Hope has a name, and that name is Jesus. And I remember the first time that Jesus came and restored my hope. It was in the middle of the night, in the middle of January, in the middle of Red Deer, Alberta. Stop me if you've heard this one before, and I'm never going to stop talking about it. See, I thought for me that I could find hope, that I could find salvation by drinking and fighting and partying. But here I am in the middle of the night, walking up the South Hill in Red Deer, Alberta, all by myself, jeans and a t-shirt, freezing. And I called out to Jesus, and I realized that he had been there the whole time, and he restored my hope. And here's the honest truth, and I really need you to hear this. That wasn't the last time. Man, the last 2 years, there's been so many times that I've been really, really running low on hope. And you know what? He keeps showing up. Sometimes it's a friend who just has the right words at the right time. Sometimes I open up the Bible and I read what I need to read. But you know what it is often? It's just his presence in my life. And when I've reached the point over these last 2 years where I'm just kind of going through this thought in my mind, all is lost, all is lost, all is lost, all is lost, all is lost. He just speaks to my soul and he says, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So it's September 12th, 2021, as we open up this building, this home for a family. You don't have to believe like we believe to belong here, I'll tell you that. But I will tell you this, if we're going to move forward, we got to move forward with help. We got to make a decision that we're going to do what it takes to extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist. We're going to have the humility to ask for help and the generosity to extend it. We're going to move forward with home. We're going to start focusing on what unites us rather than what divides us, because family trumps feelings. And finally, and most importantly, we're going to move forward with hope. All is not lost. It's going to be okay.
it's going to be more than okay. In the words of Dave Poole that he ripped off from me and used in the video, the best really is yet to come. I want to put that picture up again. I get real emotional when I look at that picture. And I know that I'm not a king or anything like that. But I want to suggest to you, in a world of turmoil, in a world at war, spiritual forces of good and spiritual forces of evil, playing out in the lives of our friends and our family, of ourselves, anxiety, anger, isolation. I want to declare today a day of prayer. I want to declare today a day of prayer. So I'm going to ask you, on September 12th, 2021, would you stand, please? The crazy thing about that picture for me is they had no idea what was going to come next. But they knew where their help came from. And we know the same thing. Let's pray. Dear God, let hope rise, let hope rise, let hope rise. In every man and every woman and every boy and every girl and every family, I pray that you would let hope rise. That deep down in the heart of everybody watching online or everybody in person right now who's kind of feeling like all is lost, all is lost, all is lost, and the anxiety and the anger and the isolation, God, that you would speak directly to their heart right now and say, it's going to be okay. Father, I pray that you would make us a people of help with a humility to ask for it and the generosity to always extend it. I pray that we would be a people of home, a people of acceptance, a people of love, a people of belonging. We're family, we're family, we're family, and that we would be that to each other. And finally, Father, I come to you and I thank you for Jesus. Thank you for the hope that we walk every step of our lives with because of him. Because of him, we can say the best is yet to come. And with all heads bowed and all eyes closed, as we continue in a time of reflection and prayer, I guess I want to ask you right now. I'm telling you, Jesus stands alone in all worldviews, in all religions, in all of human history. It's not about what you do, it's about what he already did. Jesus came, he died, and he rose again for you. Salvation has come to you. Forgiveness has come to you. Hope has come to you. Everything that needed to be done has already been done by him. And so your next step is very simple. Just receive what he's already done. And if that's you today, whether you're watching online or in person, if today is the day that you want to receive that gift that Jesus already purchased through his life, his death, and his resurrection, with all heads bowed and all eyes closed, you want to do me a favor? Just raise your hand right now because I want to pray for you. That's awesome. Amazing. Nice and high, please, if you could. That's great. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, you can put your hands down. I'm going to pray for you right now. Jesus, thank you. I don't know everything, but today I realize that you are for me and you love me fully and completely. And the timing of your love is perfect. You love me right here and right now. I thank you. So today, Jesus, I thank you for everything that you've done for me. I pray that you would be my Savior, that I would put my past behind me and step into today and tomorrow and forever with you. And today, Jesus, I also ask you to be my Lord, that you would lead me, give me the strength to follow you one next step at a time. I pray this in your name. Amen. Hey, September 12th, 2021. What a day, man. What a bleeping day. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of this church. We got some food trucks. Let's celebrate. I love you, and we'll see you next week. Let's go. shouldn't have said bleeping.